Hi, welcome to episode 229 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I sell my handspun yarns in my Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea. And we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. If you haven't come and joined us, please do. Hi, how are you? I am once again a day late, trying to be consistent, but having some problems. Today is Tuesday, May 7th. I had anticipated recording yesterday, but got a little waylaid. I hope you are having a wonderful week and that whenever this podcast finds you, it finds you well. I had a crazy week last week and weekend. I went to Chicago this weekend, and I was in Chicago primarily for the Chicago Pen Show, which takes place actually out in Hoffman Estates, which is not in Chicago, but it is in the Chicago metro area, or larger metro area. Basically, it's about an hour outside of the city. We stay at a hotel in the suburbs, which has a grand ballroom inside the hotel, so everything is all in the same place. And we are across the parking lot from several shopping centers, so there's plenty to walk to in terms of food and Target and anything we might need. So I drove up there last Wednesday with my friend Anna. I write over on her blog, The Corner of Knit and Tea, The Well-Appointed Desk. And you have heard me talk about that quite a bit, or at least a little bit on this podcast. And I know a few of you have followed me over there. So we drove up on Wednesday. We did the entire drive in one day. I took a few conference calls from the car and sort of handled some business, and then we arrived. She went to dinner with her father. I did a little bit more working. Thursday dawned bright and early. We got coffee and hung out for a while, and then we went to lunch at Portillo's. We had Italian beef sandwiches, a Chicago institution, and we purchased an entire chocolate cake, this bigger than the size of my head, to take back to the hotel for birthday celebrations. My birthday was on Sunday, and another of our friends, her birthday had been the week before, so we kind of did a combined big birthday celebration. Saturday afternoon was set up for the show. I went to work for Van Ness Pen Shop, which is a family-owned pen shop out of Little Rock, Arkansas. I have worked for her before, and I saw her actually when I went down to the Arkansas Pen Show a few months ago. So we set up the booth. She brings lots of paper and ink and pen cases and pens, and so we set up in a couple hours, and then we had dinner and hung out, and most of us tried to go to bed early because we still had the whole weekend. So Friday, the pen show doors opened at 8 o'clock, and we worked until 5:30 that day selling pens. It was a pretty busy day. We got to see, well, for me it was exciting because I've now been going to pen shows for a little over a year. And the nice thing about that is that I recognize people, and I recognize people I met last year and people I've seen at different shows. And so I'm starting to feel a little more like I belong there. So that was really, really nice. Friday was busy. Saturday was crazy busy. We had a lot of traffic through. Not as much sales as we could have wanted, but we talked to a ton of people. And fell into bed exhausted Friday and Saturday night, ready to do it again. Sunday we had a slightly shorter day, and it was my birthday, and I got super lucky because my sister brought the kids out to the suburbs, and we went for pancakes at Denny's, which was right across the parking lot from the hotel, and so I got to see them on my birthday, which was super fun. Roxy she's 5.5 now, and she is doing amazingly. She read me the whole menu herself, like everything about no substitutions and any other words that were in there. She is whip smart, and actually she just got into a gifted kindergarten program. And Miles is 2.5 now, and he is finding all of his words, and I don't understand all of them, but he is talking now, and had I spent more time with him and understand a little bit more of his speech currently, I probably would understand him. It's definitely not just babbling. He is talking now, and both kids were adorable, and we had a great breakfast. And then I went back to the pen show for one more day. We had a slightly shorter show. We ended at 4, but of course we had to strike everything and pack the van up. We spent one final night hanging out with people. Sunday night is generally pretty slow. There are not too many people left. A lot of people leave on Sunday to go back home. So there's just usually a few of us diehards left, and we go to dinner and hang out a little bit, but everybody is exhausted. And then yesterday we drove home, and it took us a little longer than we expected, and so I didn't walk in the door till after 6, and I had a few things I had to do last night, so I just did not get the podcast done. So today was back to work, and there was a ton to do for that, and it is now about 4:30, 4:45, 5 o'clock, something like that, and I decided I should sit down and record a podcast. So that's a little bit about my weekend. We had a great time. I did not get to do a ton of shopping because we were so busy this time, but I did manage to pick up one pen, and I brought it with me. This is a Franklin Christoph, who is a pen maker out of, I'm pretty sure, North Carolina. And they make a variety of pens, resins, and acrylics. This is their Pocket 45 model, so it's a short pen. It's not super big, and I just loved the blue. And the pen came to me in a roundabout way because actually one of my friends bought it. And I had seen it on the table, and then I came back later and it was gone, and I thought, okay, it wasn't meant to be. And then one of my friends came up to me afterwards and said, I bought it, but I'm having reservations because I like another one, and I know you liked this one, and so it roundabout came to me. So it is a beautiful acrylic pen with turquoise. It's got a dark blue ink in it, and I have a fine nib. I don't know that you'll really be able to see that, but again, it is by Franklin Christoph. I have had a couple of their pens, and I have one that is one of my absolute favorites. It's actually another 45 in kind of a mint color, but this was my birthday pen for the weekend. So I picked up a couple inks and some paper, but I didn't bring that with me. If you are interested in following along on my adventures, I'll probably be reviewing some things on the well-appointed desk in the next several weeks. And I also have a variety of pens that I received for reviews. So those are not things that I bought, but they are things that I will review for the desk. And I have not even photoed those yet because each of those will get their own time in the limelight. But that is what I'm working on with that. So now let's start the podcast proper, now that we're 7-8 minutes in. Today I am drinking orange ginger mint tea from the Republic of Tea. This is one of my favorites. And a cup of tea is good because, as you can tell, or maybe you can't, my voice is a little scratchy just from talking so much this weekend. And I am drinking it in one of my favorite mugs that I got from Anthropology, and I won't repeat it because it is sort of a friendly for all ages podcast, but there you go. It's tea time. And the orange ginger mint is one of my favorites. It's a great after dinner tea. It's a good afternoon tea. I didn't really want to, it's herbal, so I didn't really want to start with the caffeine at 5 o'clock. So let's talk about the knits. On the way up on Wednesday, I did as I promised you I would, and I worked on nothing but my socks until they were done. And they're done! So these are the Pebbles and Pathway socks by Marceline Smith. She is Hey Brownberry, and it was a wonderful pattern. It's a garter stitch and cables. Basically, I knit, the pattern calls for it to be knit toe up. I actually reversed it and knit it top down, and what I did is I just reversed the cables so they're going the same direction. The yarn I used is a green unknown in my stash because the label fell off. It is probably superwash merino. It is a little bit toothy. I knit these on US zeros, so I believe I did 60 stitch socks. The cuffs are in Quixotic Fibers, who she is dyeing again, but I don't know if it's the same base. It was some MCN merino cashmere nylon that I had in brown. I did a simple heel flap, slip stitch, heel flap, and gusset. And then a rounded toe, and these are done. These were supposed to be my beautiful spring socks, and I guess it is the beginning of May, so it is still spring, but they took me a couple months to knit, and I'm sorry that they took me that long, but they are done. So that was my first finish for the weekend. My second finish was something I actually knit on the way home, so I'm not going in chronological order there, but I am going in finished objects order. Last week I showed you a skein of yarn that I said I was going to use for a hat for Miles. And I went back through my notes and actually found out more information about that skein. It is the American Worsted Base from Pigeon Roof Studios. I believe last week I mistakenly said it was from Squoosh. It was from Pigeon Roof Studios, and it was in the colorway Verdigris. And the yarn is brown with some highlights of teal and purple in it. And it's a little bit rougher than I wanted it to be, but it is superwash. And I have not washed it yet. My plan is to soak it in either some wool wash or maybe a little bit of hair conditioner. It's not super rough. It's just, it is a little less squishy and soft than I normally knit for the kids. But I finished the hat. This is another Waffles hat. It is the Violet Waffles hat by Haldora J. And I just knit a slightly smaller hat for Miles. I cast on slightly fewer stitches and knit slightly less into the crown. And of course he got a pom-pom as well. So you can see it is brown and teal, and then it's got little pops of purple and sorry, I said brown and teal, little pops of purple, and it's also got a few little spots of yellow. I took a really nice photo, which will be on my Instagram page shortly and on my Ravelry project page, and it is just a lovely, lovely hat. I'm hoping he will enjoy it. So now I have one winter hat for each of the kids. I'm not moving fast. I definitely need to be moving faster. The other interesting thing last night was I came home and I had finished the hat on the drive, but I hadn't finished the pom-pom because I didn't bring the pom-pom maker with me or the scissors or any of that stuff. So I went to make the pom-pom, and my husband said, now I realize that I probably know the answer to this because you have pom-pom makers, but does every hat need a pom-pom? And I thought about it, and I love pom-poms on hats. They are my favorite. But I actually don't know if the kids do. I think Roxy does. I know my sister wants pom-poms on her hat, but I don't know. So I decided that these will be pom-pom hats and maybe the other hats will be without, and I will see what the kids prefer. But so far Roxy has been super pleased with our pom-pom hats, and Miles hasn't complained, but of course he wasn't talking last year at this time, so there's that. So yes, one more hat for the kids. I still have several more to make for them to be ready for the winter season, but seeing as it's only the beginning of May, I suppose I can let it go. So, let's move on to what I'm working on. I showed you last week some beautiful yarn that beautiful bright yarn that I was going to turn into a sweater. And I was seeing if I had one of the tags here, and I do not. It is yarn from A Good Yarn, which is in Sarasota, Florida. It is their new house yarn, and it is called Boca Chica. It is a superwash merino, and it comes, I believe, around 480 yards to the skein. So it is a very light fingering weight. And I told you last week, I think I showed you on my phone about the sweater that I was going to make, but I printed it out. Let's see if I have, well, you can sort of see it here. It is the Elfie sweater, and so it's not a Fibonacci sequence, but it is alternating stripes of colors. So you start heavily on the dark color with thin stripes of the light color, and then you switch further down the body. So I did cast this on before I left, and I worked on it quite a bit, and unfortunately I made some mistakes. So I'm probably going to rip it out. I don't know if I'm going to rip back all the way to the beginning, but I very well might. So you can see how the yarns are working together. I will show you that here. So as you can see, the yarns are working nicely together, and I'm getting my stripes. And so I'm pretty pleased with that. It is going to be a little sheer, as you can see. The pattern calls for it to be knit on 5s, and I actually went down to 4s. And actually, before I rip it out, I should measure my gauge carefully, because I should see if I'm at gauge or if I need to move up another size. Anyway, so those are the colors working together. I believe the hot pink is Duval Street, and the multi is, I think it's called Rainbow Reef. And I've made a mess here, but let me wind it up and I will show you, because I also have some waste yarn in here that it got tangled with. So that is that one. So these are my two colors. And like I said, this is how they look together. A couple reasons to rip. One is that I was not paying attention and I did not knit enough pink rows between these two stripes. The second is that I am not terribly pleased. One of the things I forgot about when I started knitting this project is that I would be knitting stripes in the round and that I would need to do some kind of joins and worry about, and of course now I can't find it but yes, and that I would need to do stripes in the round and do something to prevent the jogs. And I have tried multiple methods to prevent jogs. I have tried slipping that first stitch. I've tried lifting up the stitch below. I've tried knitting two together. I've tried a million things. And I do not really enjoy knitting stripes in the round, and I don't think I'm particularly good at it. So I am trying to decide exactly how I'm going to continue with this pattern. I have a couple options. And here you can see my stripes in the round, and it's not terrible, but I'm not super pleased. And like I said, I have to rip back to here at least because I have to do a couple more rows on the pink. So because I did like a certain number up here, and then I was supposed to do, this was supposed to be this minus one row, and I did not do enough rows. So then it's just going to look weird as I go down. So I have to decide what I'm going to do. One of the things that I decided I might do is I might plan to knit most of the top bodice in the pink and skip the striping sequence as written, and then maybe do, sorry, I just smacked the tripod, and then maybe do helical stripes, which I believe there is an article, a tutorial in Knitty. I will add it to the show notes. But then do basically pin stripes, 1 and 1, and go ahead and do like helical knitting basically all the way down so that the striping is basically a 1 by 1, it's consistent, and I don't have to, I can use that as my method of sort of jogging stripes, because I am just not enjoying this. And basically where the stripe is, it's going to be in the middle of the back, and yes, it will be covered up by my hair some, but I'm just not pleased with it. So if you have any suggestions, I would, as always, welcome them, but I suspect I'm going to rip this back. I'll probably rip it back to where I did the first stripe and just pick up from there and then keep going and maybe get through, like I said, the top part of the bodice in the pink, and then do helical stripes for a while, and then maybe I'll just do the white at the multi at the bottom. So I'm going to play with this a little bit. This is a review for the blog this month, like I said, for A Good Yarn Sarasota. The interesting part about this is the first time that I have done the contiguous sleeve method, and I hope you can see a little bit of that. It's an interesting, basically you knit the sleeves at the same time as you're knitting the body, as opposed to raglan shaping. You're creating some extra stitches to kind of create the sleeve cap up here. So that part is very interesting, and I am enjoying that part of the process, and I would like to have a summer top. I will probably enter this, although I'm not eligible to enter for prizes, I will probably enter this into our summer garment or spring garment make-along. It is not cotton, but it will be a springy garment, and so I am working on it for that. If you want more information about that, that is a craft along between my podcast and Jocelyn and Diana over at the Northern Knits podcast, and they are on a brief hiatus while Diana is on her honeymoon and Jocelyn takes some vacation. They'll be back within the next few weeks. But this is the spring garment make-along that we are jointly hosting. Basically, the premise is make a spring garment for yourself. You may knit, you may sew, you may crochet, you may weave, you can spin yarn and then craft something for yourself. It should be a spring garment, whatever that means to you. It could be a top, a skirt, a dress, a shawl. Our only requirement is that it be an adult garment. And if you have cottons and linens and you enjoy using them, now is the time to pull them out. Our hashtag is, I believe, Spring Cotton Cal, C-A-L, for Craft Along, and that is on Instagram, and we look forward to seeing what you create. So, more thought on this, and I'm sure I will have something else for you to see in the next week, because I'm going to make a decision in the next night or two and get back to that. In the meantime, I am busy winding my handspun yarn because I am going to cast on, I hope tonight, but at latest tomorrow night, for my Night Shift by Andrea Mowry. And I showed you all of those skeins of handspun this last week, and I hope I will have something to show you for this coming week. I did not bring it with me on my trip because it is 6 skeins of handspun, and that's a big project, and I did not think that I was going to have a ton of knitting time. I was mostly right. I mostly knit on the trip up and back. The only other night that I knit was during the pen auction, and I screwed it up. So I think I brought the right amount of projects with me, and I'll just have more to show you next week. No spinning to show you. I have not touched my spinning wheel since I left, and so since we last talked, I spun about an ounce of, and I'm looking at it because it's right over here, I spun about an ounce of the red fiber from the Sanguine Griffin, and it is beautiful, and maybe I'll have something for you next week. So the final thing that I will show you is a little surprise that I got when we went away. Anna, the owner of the Well-Appointed Desk and the person I went to the pen show with, is also a knitting friend. She and I have been in the same knitting group for close to 11 years, and she surprised me on Saturday by giving me a present that was yarn. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of what she gave me. She said that she went shopping in her stash and she found a bunch of colors that were not really her, but were more me. So she gave me these beautiful 3 skeins of yarn. They are purples and browns, and she thought maybe I could use them together in a shawl. And I am halfway contemplating knitting another color affection shawl because I love the snot out of that shawl and I always get amazing compliments. So the yarns that she gave me were Morning Moon Alpaca, which is a 60% alpaca, 15% merino, 15% silk, 10% nylon, hand-dyed sock yarn, $450. $450. No, 450 yards. That is this one, and it is all kinds of purples and plums and a little bit of like a darker blue purple. It is just gorgeous. The second skein she gave me is from Raven Ridge Fiber Arts. It is hand-painted yarn. It is called Pine Bark, and it is, I believe Pine Bark is the colorway. And this is the Welcome yarn, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and it is browns and purples. And so it's got like a tan, and it's got kind of a more reddish brown, and then it's got some burgundy / purple in there, and it goes really nicely with the berry tones of this one. So that is 2, and the Morning Moon I don't think has a colorway. It just says what kind of yarn it is. And the final is a single, and it is from Supernatural Yarns. It is her Unicorn Sock, which is 100% superwash merino, single ply, 400 yards in the colorway Spiderwort. And this is definitely a darker purple, kind of a gray-y black. It might even have, it might even be overdyed black. And so the 3 of these I think would make a really cool kind of understated shawl. And I do not know when I'll get to that. It will probably be years. Because as you know, I am trying to knit through my stash, but I am also knitting samples and reviews. But this is a project that I, maybe I'll set a goal of casting it on this year. Maybe it will be a holiday project. I still have a ton of sweaters and winter gear for the kids to knit and reviews, but I want to cast this on because these, purple is fast becoming my color. If you follow me over at the Well-Appointed Desk, you'll know I have recently been taking with lots of purple ink, and so I am enjoying purples. And this is a little more subdued than I usually go, but I like it. It's kind of sophisticated, and I think it might be fun. So that is where I'm going with that one. And that is all I have for you this week. I hope that you have had a lovely week, and I will see you again in just about a week. I hope I'll have lots more to show you. I am excited, really excited to cast on for that Night Shift, and the Night Shift and this sweater are my 2 projects for the rest of May. I'll probably put in something else that's a little bit of a instant gratification project, so maybe another hat or a blanket square or something else fun, you know, that would be a quick knit. But otherwise I'm going to focus on those, and I'm super excited about that. I guess I can also pull out my boxy if I want to be working on another sweater, and I've got to figure out what I'm going to take with me to Ireland, which is at the beginning of June. So Until next week when I yammer at you again, I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I will say happy knitting, happy sipping. This is not working well. I will say happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.